I've added all the holes to the sheet metal and to the weldment. So a couple of things that I'd like to set up is a display state that the sheet metal is hidden and the weldment's shown, and then another display state where the sheet metal is shown but the weldment's not. Well, don't really need that because the sheet metal's maybe a partial or a wrap, something along those lines. So first thing I want to do is check the properties. Somewhere along the lines, the hide and show started working. The threaded cosmetic threads are gonna kind of show up regardless. But if we do the hide show, and then we'll be able to kind of switch that in and out, as well as clicking on these guys. So not sure what happened in the previous video where it wasn't. So if we go into the properties of any of the items, I want to look at the cut list table. Alright, so everything's pretty much in there. The one that's out of order then was the bar that I put in at the last. And the cut list summary, being able to go through the items, I had to come back over here to the description, copy and paste the bar into that short segment to get that to work. Alright, so at some point I'd go into that library feature and figure out where that one is hidden, so and where it's placed, so that I don't have to do that every time. Alright, and then have the folders for each of the hole groups and patterns. And still not sure why when I was selecting, I may have been selecting through the part and picking up the back sides for it to go that way. The top worked pretty well. Alright, so the display state, let's just make one for the weldments. So things with configurations are being able to control lengths, physical properties, if there's a hole, not a hole type thing. We have the visual display state and then the standard display state. Interesting that it picked that one up. So that was the original, or an original. Looks like the planes are all being shown, so we can turn off the 3D plane. So that turned on the 3D plane. And then plane 3 is being shown. Not sure which one that is. Must have popped up in there somewhere. So since I'm not quite sure what I've told it to do there, that is one way of switching between the wireframe and construction and the finished piece. So we're going to add a display state, and I'll do one with the weldment, and a single click usually allows me to rename it. Alright, not sure again why that one's not picking up. So from the assembly I can hit tab, or we can come back over here and find the sheet metal items and unclick them. Alright, so I kind of put that into the wireframe just because of the edges being highlighted. On our selections, if we go shaded with edges, shaded without, it kind of fades in. And I guess the other quick note, since I noticed it here, is with the miter, realized that I wasn't going to be able to put the screw into the corner, so that sketch did shift a little bit to allow those items into the mix. All right, so let's check. Most of the time I can rename that, so I'm not quite sure what I told it to do. So if we go back, we have the completely wrapped box, and then the weldment. So I'm going to save that. And then we're going to create an assembly so that I can get in a fastener count. And so if we bring in the enclosure, clicking the checkbox brings it origin to origin. It picked up the last display state. So if I right click, there is the configuration, And we still have to be able to navigate to the display states. So component properties. And that one will be the wrap. Alright, so I did a real quick experiment since I haven't done the smart fasteners in a while. And smart fasteners are a little quirky, so let's go ahead and pick. It's warning me that if there's a lot of items or if there's lightweight components, it will take a little while longer. So the selection is the face, and I'm just going to tell it to populate all. I'd like for it to go through and find everything, but most of the time it's not gonna pick up that much. So going to auto update length. Okay, well that's fine. We're overwriting it. That's the shortest one. I actually want to use about an eighth of an inch. So if we go into the to the grouping right now, oh, it did find everything this time, except for the backside. So that's interesting. I was kind of expecting it to find just the one. And so in the groups, we'll go to the series, change the fastener type. Hopefully let me change the fastener type. I know that I want it to be a button head. So that's interesting that it's not letting me, there it goes. Either that or is not being patient enough for it. Alright, so we'll click. And a length of 1.625, that was nice of it. Let's see if those update as we cycle through them. So that one's still showing up as a socketed cap screw. Alright, well I'm supposed to get the same list. So let me kick that one out. See if it'll go just one plate at a time. So smart fasteners for the plate. Getting tired of seeing that one, so okay. Found the group for just that top, and then edit the grouping, change the fastener type, go to the button head. And then the length is 188, so I'm okay with that. And then let's just do the front face. And it found that one and that one again. So let's see if it's going to let me make the adjustment on the series. So it's happy with that one. And then this is what I ran into on the previous trial. Is we're good with the smart fasteners up to this point, but then I come around to the remaining two sides that should be just as easy to pick, and it's not allowing it to select. So I'm not sure why it's choking on that one. So I'm going to do a real quick save since we got it to go that far. So in this case, one thing with the smart fastener, it will warn you and tell you if the toolbox is not open. To get into the toolbox, we go up to the Solidworks add-ins and select on toolbox, or you come over to the pull down, go to add-ins, and it is going to be, when it comes up, the Solidworks tool library is the primary one that we need. The button under add-ins turns both on, which doesn't really hurt anything. It just, we're not using the other one right now. And so to finish this out, I'm going to populate. So I already have that, but to get to that folder, we go into the toolbox, and then I'm using the ANSI inch, bolts and screws. And we'll come down to socket head screws, grab the socket button head. So there are times where I just forego the smart fastener and just put these in either manually if there are not too many, or like we're going to do here, set a pattern. Alright, so first one, and nice, it has an issue with that now. Alright, so it didn't lose them, but it went to exclamation points. So let's see if there's a what's wrong. Auto sizing has been deleted. Please repair the relation. So, well, I don't really care about the auto sizing right now, but that's another one of those. Yeah, not 100%. All right, so if I pick those and come up to the pattern driven. Oh, no, I didn't want the enclosure. I need the driving feature, so it will find all of those holes. And we have the same net result. And one item to act as the seed, it's able to rotate, so it has the minus sign, but all the rest of them will be under the drive feature. So I'm going to pause for a second and see if I can figure out what's going on with the Smart Fastener before we take this over into the drawing. Okay, so pushed a few buttons, edited the right click and edit the Smart Fastener, showing the group, and then if we change the length, we'll clear the auto update length, which is okay. If we edit the grouping, then this still has the exclamation point. Make sure it's on the button head. And then it seems to have updated, but the 1.625, which is the too long, then we should get the warning. No? Okay, we'll go ahead and accept. Edit the Smart Fastener, so those are the long ones again. See if we can get this down to the 3/16. So usually there's some place, oh, and that one didn't, so maybe I didn't go into the grouping on that one. Edit the grouping, make sure it's current, and then it updates. Alright, so I don't see markup to date. I don't see anything with the up to date, but the Smart Fasteners can be kind of annoying, so experiment with them, but you know, maybe don't go fully committed on a large assembly until you get a good feel for it. Alright, so my other my other item then is to bring this into the corner. Can't quite see what it's trying to pick up there. Not an 836, an 832. Alright, and then the screw, let's go ahead into the pattern driven. Go ahead and migrate those out. So main thing here is I'm trying to be able to get a count. So let's rebuild, see if it barks again. No. Alright, save it. And we'll call that good. So one of the things with the part, the multi-body part, is everything's tied together and we've mixed the weldments and sheet metal. I mentioned early on that if it was going to be an issue, I would do the weldment as a part, or a derived part, or a new part, so it has those references to the 3D sketch that's in the assembly. And then, you know, in that case, I might only need one wall, and I could mate those and reuse them rather than have individual items. Well, I know this one and this one, this in the back, the front and the back are identical, left and right are identical up to this point, but if I have to have a pass-through for electrical and a port for hydraulic and air, pneumatic, or any other power supply, ventilation, that kind of stuff, these could very quickly become unique items. So downside to the multi-body part is it's not going to be, I don't think it's possible, well, it's not going to be easy to create an exploded view. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have that come over to, I wanted to have the display state, had too many drive parts on the brain. Alright, so create that display state so when we create our our drawing, and I'm just going to use a blank landscape. I'm not focused on title block or anything like that. So let's go ahead and bring that in as an isometric, and I'll place it. And going through this process, then when I create a bill of materials, tables, bill of materials, I really should only have 2 items, so let's just go top level only. And 131 screws. So we're going to be a little busy, and I miscalculated. I was going to order a box of 100, so I'm going to need a few more boxes of those to assemble it this way. Still think that's going to be cheaper than trying to weld all those seams. So, and then if it becomes an issue with positive pressure, evacuation, anything like that, we'll try the silicone first if the heat, environmental conditions don't play too much of a factor. So, see what 1/5. That's a little big. So the other thing we could try, maybe let's go to a trimetric. I really don't need it that big, so let's go back to 1/10 scale. And then if we need to put some dimensions, we can place those in. So we'll go to the next. Sheet format cannot be located. So that means that somewhere my my cloud folder is not linked right now, so I'll have to do that later. We'll go back and go back into the properties. Once I locate it, I'll go back into the properties, select the blank landscape here, reload it or apply the changes, and that will clear out. Alright, so model view, we'll go to the regular enclosure, an isometric view. So that one picked up the display state 2 for the weldment, and then the assembly pretty much has the other items. So if we go into the cut list, since this isn't showing the sheet metal, but the cut list probably will, this table then becomes a Weldment Cut List. And the sheet metal, the bend table and the sizes for it are a little bit different. This has pretty much the same functionality, but for the most part, we're going to get the list. So looking at this, that was the one that I meant to do and got sidetracked. So since the bar is kind of out of sequence here, we can go back over to the enclosure part file, and I can grab the bar and bring it up. I'm going to rebuild it, save it, and then let's see if that had the desired result of reordering. And, well, we might be able to. Yeah, I am curious, so let's go ahead and delete. And I'll just reapply it since it wasn't anything custom on the table. Nope. So just one quick check. Properties, cut list table. Now that one looks okay. Default as machine, cut list template. So shrink that up a little bit. We'll make these a little bit smaller so that it's not taking up so much room. And then one of these, I don't know if that's just a little too close. There we go. So if I grab the box, the row list, I can reorder those. Alright, so it should have come over like the cut list, but if not, we'll get it into the mix. Alright, so applying the dimensions if we wanted to. I think the basic list though, this does have even though it is technically the multi-body part. As long as I have that view highlighted, I can auto balloon, and I'm going to bring everything over to the left, and that's not too big of a mess. So let's highlight, we'll grab the magnet line, see if I can drag that a little bit better, a little bit closer, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the bars. Since we're not looking at the sheet, then we still have the sheets to contend with. So I can take that out and detail it as much as I need to. Oh, one more then is we get down to one of the panels. If I need to take it to that level of detail to show the pass-throughs, the ports, let's go ahead and insert one more model view, and this is going to be of the enclosure. And if I select, we go to the front view and I select a body, it should shift me over to, and since I did not, well, let's just go ahead and grab one of the weldments. We'll use that as the example, and I would have to change display state, but then we can drag to the positions. So for like things like the miter, you get those in there. Alright, and then I could scale those, get them a little bit closer, put the dimensions on it. So one more is the enclosure. Going to go back to display state 1 and then select the body. Oh, this one didn't go to display state 1. So let's see if we can grab one of the panels. I'll place it. Alright, so that can be a little tricky, especially since the other one wasn't showing it. But now we can go in and put it in our standard details. So apparently my toolbars aren't locked, and I don't, in this template, I don't have a dimension layer. So let's just put the basics on there. Smart dimension, make sure it's active, and then if we do a whole call out, okay. And if we had the properties and everything else carrying over, materials, whatnot, those would all come with it. Alright, so we can detail this out as necessary. I think I've covered most of the hiccups and things that'll go through is that come up when you're mixing. You know, if anything more complicated, I'm going to recommend the top-down. Start with the assembly, have a separate weld part, multi-body part, have a separate sheet metal multi-body part, and tie them back to the assembly. But all of these are going to end up with external references that you're going to have to account for and deal with in different ways. I'm still going to say it's a lot faster than drawing each one of these individual parts, trying to get these patterns to line up, make changes. I'm still a free-form designer that, you know, if you watch my videos, I don't go to the nth detail on the first pass or even the second pass, but by the time we've gone through all of the iterations and done the checks and done the drawings, we've caught most of the errors, most of the oversights, and made this a buildable assembly.